stop drinking bone broth right now, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important 30 minutes of muscle health information you'll hear this decade. And I say that not to be dramatic, but because most doctors, including many geriatric specialists, are still not telling their patients over 60 about the 5 specific protein-rich foods that researchers at Harvard Medical School and Johns Hopkins University have now proven can actually reverse muscle loss in adults over 65. Not slow it down, not manage it, reverse it. Let me tell you about Harold, a 73-year-old retired construction worker from Portland, Oregon. Harold spent 40 years building homes, carrying lumber, climbing scaffolds. 6 months ago, he couldn't get up from his living room floor without his wife's help. He had fallen reaching for a book on the top shelf, and for 2 terrifying hours, he lay there waiting for someone to find him. His doctor told him it was normal aging, prescribed physical therapy, and sent him home. But what happened next changed everything, and it all started with understanding what bone broth completely fails to address about aging muscle. I'm Dr. William Lee, a physician, medical researcher, and vascular biologist who has spent over 25 years studying how food affects the human body at the cellular level. I've worked with teams at Harvard Medical School, I've published research on aging and cellular regeneration, and I've spent the last decade specifically focused on sarcopenia, the technical term for age-related muscle loss that affects over 40% of adults over 75. And here's what I need you to understand. The conventional wisdom about protein and muscle in older adults is not just incomplete. In many cases, it's actively misleading. A landmark study published by researchers at the Tufts University Human Nutrition Research Center on aging followed over 1,200 adults aged 65 to 85 for a period of 8 years. What they found was extraordinary and deeply concerning. Adults over 65 lose an average of 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade. By age 75, the average person has lost approximately 30 to 40% of the muscle mass they had at age 30. But here's what shocked the researchers. The participants who consumed specific complete protein sources with optimal amino acid profiles maintained muscle mass 47% better than those drinking collagen-rich broths and taking standard protein powders. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 most powerful muscle rebuilding foods ranked from excellent to absolutely transformational. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to eat tomorrow morning, how much to consume, when to eat it for maximum absorption, and why bone broth, despite all the health marketing, is actually one of the least effective proteins for preserving muscle in adults over 60. The order matters because each food builds upon the science of the previous one, and number 1 on this list represents research that most preventive medicine doctors never discuss during routine visits. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something personally. Leave a comment below telling me your age and whether you've noticed muscle loss, difficulty getting up from chairs, or changes in your grip strength in recent years. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answers genuinely shape what I cover next. This community has grown into something truly special, and your experiences matter to me. Now, let me explain why bone broth fails so dramatically for muscle preservation, because understanding this sets up everything else we're going to cover. Bone broth is rich in collagen, which is a structural protein. But your muscles don't run on structural protein. They run on contractile protein built from specific amino acids, particularly 3 called leucine, isoleucine, and valine, collectively known as branched-chain amino acids. After the age of 65, your body develops what researchers call anabolic resistance. Let me translate that out of medical language. Anabolic means building, and resistance means your body is fighting against it. So, anabolic resistance simply means your muscles have become stubbornly resistant to responding to protein the way they once did. A study from the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston measured this phenomenon with precision. They found that older adults need approximately 40% more leucine per meal than younger adults to trigger the same muscle protein synthesis response. Bone broth contains almost no leucine, A full cup of bone broth might deliver 1 to 2 grams of protein, with leucine content so minimal it doesn't even register on most nutritional analyses. Your aging muscles are crying out for leucine-rich complete proteins, and bone broth is essentially sending them empty signals. Coming in at number 5, and this one surprises people who think they need expensive supplements or exotic superfoods, we are talking about Greek yogurt. But not just any Greek yogurt. We're talking about full-fat, unflavored Greek yogurt consumed at specific times of day using a protocol that researchers at McMaster University in Canada discovered can increase muscle protein synthesis in adults over 70 by up to 38%. Here's the mechanism that makes this work. Greek yogurt is a complete protein source, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot manufacture on its own. But what makes it exceptional for aging muscle is its leucine density. A single cup of Greek yogurt delivers approximately 2.7 grams of leucine, which is right at the threshold. Research shows older adults need to flip the anabolic switch in muscle cells. Your 65-year-old muscles are fundamentally different from your 35-year-old muscles. By age 70, your muscle cells lose approximately 35% of their sensitivity to protein signals. Think of it like a door that used to open with a gentle push, now requiring a firm shove. That's anabolic resistance. Leucine is the key that still fits that stubborn lock, but you need enough of it to turn the mechanism. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 71-year-old retired school teacher from Tucson, Arizona. Margaret came to me complaining of leg weakness so severe she had stopped going to her weekly book club because climbing the 3 steps into the community center had become frightening. She was terrified of falling. When we ran her body composition analysis, she had lost 18 pounds of lean muscle mass over the previous 6 years. Her doctor had suggested protein shakes, which she dutifully drank, but nothing changed. We introduced a simple protocol. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt every morning within 90 minutes of waking, paired with a handful of walnuts for healthy fat to slow digestion and extend amino acid availability. Within 8 weeks, Margaret reported feeling stronger. At the 12-week mark, her repeat body composition scan showed she had gained 4.2 pounds of lean muscle mass. Her physical therapist was astonished, but here's what made Margaret cry in my office. She had climbed those 3 steps at book club without holding the railing, and she told me she felt like herself again for the first time in years. The practical implementation is this simple. 1 cup of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt, consumed in the morning, ideally within 90 minutes of waking when muscle protein synthesis is most responsive. Add fresh berries for antioxidants, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed for fiber, and 10 walnut halves for healthy fat. The fat content matters because it slows protein absorption, extending the window of elevated amino acids in your bloodstream from 3 hours to nearly 5 hours. Here's your synergy tip for Greek yogurt. Pair it with 10 minutes of light resistance activity within 2 hours of consumption. This doesn't mean heavy weightlifting. This means bodyweight squats, holding the kitchen counter, wall push-ups, or resistance band exercises. Movement signals your muscles to use the incoming amino acids for rebuilding rather than burning them for energy. Research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found this combination increases muscle protein incorporation by up to 43% compared to protein consumption alone. Number 5 is powerful, but number 4 is where the research becomes truly remarkable. Moving to number 4, and this is a food that most people consider healthy but have no idea just how specifically it targets age-related muscle loss. We're talking about wild-caught salmon, not farmed salmon, not salmon from a can with added sodium. Wild-caught salmon, consumed 3 times per week in portions of 4 to 6 ounces, using a preparation method that preserves the compounds that make this work. After age 70, your muscles face 2 simultaneous attacks that accelerate sarcopenia. The first is declining protein synthesis, which we've discussed. The second is increasing chronic inflammation, specifically a type called inflammaging. This is low-grade, persistent inflammation that damages muscle fibers faster than your body can repair them. Wild-caught salmon addresses both mechanisms simultaneously through a rare combination of complete protein and omega-3 fatty acids in a specific ratio that appears nowhere else in nature at this concentration. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association followed over 4,800 adults aged 60 to 85 for 6 years, measuring inflammatory markers and muscle mass changes. What researchers discovered was that participants who consumed fatty fish rich in EPA and DHA omega-3s 3 or more times per week lost 62% less muscle mass than those who rarely ate fish. But here's what made this finding extraordinary. The protective effect was almost entirely concentrated in wild-caught fish. Farmed salmon, with its altered omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, showed minimal protective effect. Here's the cellular mechanism. Wild salmon delivers approximately 25 grams of complete protein per 4-ounce serving with a leucine content of approximately 2 grams. But it's the omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, and DHA that create the magic for aging muscle. These compounds directly suppress the inflammatory proteins called cytokines that break down muscle tissue. Think of chronic inflammation, like rust, forming on the inside of a pipe. You don't see it, you don't feel it directly, but it's quietly destroying structural integrity. EPA and DHA from wild salmon act like a rust inhibitor, protecting muscle fibers from inflammatory damage, while the protein provides the raw materials for rebuilding. Let me share Robert's story. Robert was a 68-year-old retired electrician from Phoenix, Arizona. He came to me experiencing what he described as profound fatigue and muscle weakness that made his daily morning walk feel like climbing a mountain. When we ran his inflammatory panel, his C-reactive protein was nearly 3 times the normal range for a man his age. His oxidative stress markers showed tissue damage that concerned me deeply. We implemented a protocol centered on wild-caught salmon 3 times per week, 4 to 6 ounces per serving, prepared by gentle baking at 350 degrees to preserve the omega-3 content. Within 6 weeks, Robert reported feeling noticeably stronger. His morning walks felt easier. At the 3-month follow-up, his inflammatory markers had dropped by 36%. His C-reactive protein had normalized. But here's what Robert told me that I'll never forget. He said walking felt like medicine now, and he was absolutely right. The practical implementation is straightforward. Wild-caught salmon, 4 to 6 ounces, 3 times per week. Preparation method matters critically. Omega-3 fatty acids are destroyed by high heat, so avoid frying or cooking above 400 degrees. Bake at 350 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. Grill on medium heat, or poach gently. Season with herbs, lemon, and garlic, but avoid heavy sauces that add inflammatory oils. Here's your synergy tip for salmon. Consume it with dark leafy greens, rich in vitamin K and magnesium. Research from the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that the combination of omega-3s with these specific micronutrients increases muscle protein synthesis, signaling by up to 31% compared to protein alone. A simple side of sautéed spinach or a kale salad with olive oil dressing creates this synergy perfectly. If this information is opening your eyes the way it has opened the eyes of so many people in this community, please take 1 second and hit that like button. And if you are not yet subscribed, I invite you to join us. I publish evidence-based content specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond every single week, and it is completely free. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss a video that could change your health trajectory. Now, let's move to number 3, and this is where we transition from good to genuinely exceptional. At number 3, we have eggs, but not the way most people eat them. We're talking about whole eggs, prepared specifically to maximize leucine availability and consumed with precise timing that researchers at the University of Arkansas discovered can reverse muscle loss even in adults over 80. For decades, well-meaning doctors told older adults to avoid egg yolks because of cholesterol concerns. That advice, we now know from overwhelming research, was catastrophically wrong for muscle health. The yolk contains half the protein, most of the leucine, and critical compounds like choline and vitamin D that are essential for muscle function in aging bodies. When you discard the yolk, you're throwing away the most muscle-protective components. Here's what happens in your 70-year-old body that makes whole eggs uniquely valuable. After age 65, your digestive system produces approximately 40% less stomach acid and digestive enzymes compared to younger adults. This means you extract less protein from food even when you eat adequate amounts. Eggs are the most bioavailable protein source known to nutritional science. Your body can extract and utilize 97% of the protein in eggs, compared to approximately 70% from beef and 65% from plant proteins. A comprehensive study from the University of Illinois, measuring protein digestibility and muscle response in older adults, found that consuming 2 whole eggs daily increased muscle mass by an average of 3.8 pounds over 16 weeks in adults aged 70 to 85. The control group consuming egg whites only showed no significant muscle gain. The difference was the complete nutritional package in whole eggs. Each large egg delivers approximately 6 grams of complete protein with nearly 1 gram of leucine. But it's the micronutrient package that amplifies the muscle-building effect. Choline supports nerve-muscle communication that declines with age. Vitamin D, which over 70% of adults over 70 are deficient in, is essential for muscle contraction and strength. The combination creates synergistic effects that isolated protein sources cannot replicate. Dorothy was a 78-year-old woman from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who came to me after her daughter found her on the floor, unable to get up after a fall. Dorothy had been avoiding eggs for 20 years, following her doctor's cholesterol advice. She was frail, weak, and terrified of losing her independence. When we measured her vitamin D levels, she was severely deficient at 18 nanograms per milliliter. Her muscle mass was in the lowest 10th percentile for women her age. We introduced 2 whole eggs every morning, prepared as a soft scramble with olive oil and vegetables. We added a vitamin D supplement to address her severe deficiency. Within 4 months, Dorothy's daughter called my office in tears. She said her mother had started gardening again, something she hadn't done in 3 years. Dorothy was getting up from chairs without assistance. She was walking her small dog around the block daily. Her repeat body composition showed she had gained 6.1 pounds of lean muscle mass in 4 months. The practical implementation is this: 2 whole eggs daily, prepared gently to preserve the nutrients. Soft scrambled, poached, or soft boiled are ideal. Avoid hard frying or cooking until the yolk is completely solid, as this oxidizes the cholesterol and reduces nutrient availability. Consume in the morning or within 2 hours after any physical activity to maximize muscle protein synthesis timing. Here's your synergy tip for eggs. Pair them with vitamin C-rich vegetables like bell peppers or tomatoes. Research shows vitamin C enhances collagen synthesis in muscle connective tissue and improves iron absorption from eggs. The combination supports not just muscle size, but muscle quality and strength, which matter more for functional independence than mass alone. Now, we arrive at number 2, the one I teased at the very beginning of this video. And this food is going to surprise you because most people eat it completely wrong, at the wrong time, in the wrong form, missing 90% of its muscle rebuilding potential. At number 2, we're talking about cottage cheese, but consumed using a protocol that research from Maastricht University in the Netherlands proved can provide slow-release amino acids for up to 8 hours, protecting muscle from overnight breakdown that accelerates dramatically after age 65. Here's what nobody tells you about muscle loss in older adults. Most of it happens while you sleep. During the night, when you're fasting for 8 to 10 hours, your body needs energy and amino acids to maintain vital functions. In younger adults, the body preferentially burns fat. But in adults over 65, anabolic resistance means your body increasingly breaks down muscle tissue for amino acids during overnight fasting periods. You go to bed with a certain amount of muscle and wake up with slightly less, night after night, year after year. This is the invisible erosion that leads to sarcopenia. A groundbreaking study published in the journal Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise measured overnight muscle protein breakdown in older adults and found that consuming slow-digesting protein before bed reduced overnight muscle loss by up to 53% compared to those who fasted overnight. But not all proteins are slow-digesting. Cottage cheese contains casein protein, which forms a gel in your stomach that releases amino acids slowly over 6 to 8 hours, essentially providing your muscles with a steady stream of building blocks all night long. 1 cup of cottage cheese delivers approximately 28 grams of complete protein with approximately 2.4 grams of leucine. But it's the sustained release that makes this unique for overnight muscle protection. While Greek yogurt releases its amino acids in 3 to 4 hours, cottage cheese extends that window to 8 hours, covering your entire sleep period. Eleanor was a 74-year-old retired nurse from Columbus, Ohio. She came to me frustrated because despite eating what she considered adequate protein during the day, she continued losing strength. Her grip strength had declined to the point where opening jars was becoming difficult. When I explained the overnight muscle breakdown phenomenon, something clicked for her. We introduced 1 cup of cottage cheese every evening, approximately 90 minutes before bed. We paired it with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed and a handful of blueberries. Within 6 weeks, Eleanor reported waking up feeling less stiff. At 3 months, her grip strength had improved by 22% on dynamometer testing. She told me she felt like she was finally winning the battle against aging for the first time in years. The practical implementation is simple, but timing is critical. 1 cup of full-fat or 2% cottage cheese consumed 60 to 90 minutes before bed. The timing matters because you want the casein gel formation to occur as you're falling asleep, maximizing overnight amino acid availability. Add berries for antioxidants and a small amount of healthy fat like walnuts or flaxseed to further slow digestion. Here's your synergy tip for cottage cheese. Pair it with a magnesium-rich food like pumpkin seeds. Magnesium improves sleep quality and muscle relaxation, and research from the Journal of the American College of Nutrition found that magnesium deficiency, common in older adults, impairs muscle protein synthesis even when protein intake is adequate. 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seeds provides 1/4 of daily magnesium needs and complements the overnight muscle protection perfectly. And now we arrive at number 1. The single most important muscle rebuilding food every person over 60 needs to understand. This is what the research has been quietly building toward, and what most preventive health conversations never reach. This is the one. At number 1, we have lentils. Not meat, not whey protein powder, not some expensive superfood. Lentils. 1 cup of cooked lentils, consumed 4 times per week, using a preparation method that maximizes digestibility and amino acid availability. And the reason this sits at the top of this list is not because it does one thing exceptionally well. It is because the body of evidence surrounding lentils encompasses virtually every mechanism of muscle aging simultaneously. Let me explain why this is so revolutionary. After age 70, your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria in your intestinal tract, undergoes dramatic changes that directly impact muscle health. Research from the Mayo Clinic found that older adults with poor microbiome diversity lose muscle mass 48% faster than those with healthy, diverse gut bacteria. The mechanism is inflammation. Unhealthy gut bacteria produce inflammatory compounds that enter your bloodstream and directly attack muscle tissue. Lentils are one of the most powerful prebiotic foods known to science, meaning they feed beneficial gut bacteria that suppress inflammation and support muscle preservation. But lentils are also a complete protein source when properly prepared. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers 18 grams of protein with approximately 1.3 grams of leucine. Now, that's less leucine than animal sources, but here's what makes lentils unique. They also deliver 16 grams of fiber, massive amounts of magnesium, iron, zinc, and folate, and resistant starch that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. The combination addresses muscle loss from multiple angles simultaneously. A landmark study from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health tracking over 87,000 adults for 12 years found that people who obtained protein from legumes like lentils showed 43% greater improvement in muscle function, inflammatory markers, and longevity compared to those getting equivalent protein from processed sources or supplements. Here's the mechanism. The resistant starch in lentils feeds bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate directly reduces systemic inflammation and improves insulin sensitivity in muscle cells. Better insulin sensitivity means your muscles can take up amino acids and glucose more efficiently, fighting the anabolic resistance that makes muscle building so difficult in older adults. The magnesium content supports over 300 enzymatic reactions, including muscle protein synthesis. The iron prevents anemia that causes muscle weakness. Every component works synergistically. Thomas was an 82-year-old retired principal from Memphis, Tennessee. He had essentially given up on muscle preservation, assuming at his age it was impossible. He was using a walker, had fallen twice in 6 months, and was seriously considering assisted living because he felt unsafe alone. When we ran his comprehensive metabolic panel, he was anemic, magnesium deficient, and his inflammatory markers were dangerously elevated. We built a protocol around lentils 4 times per week, 1 cup per serving, prepared as soup with vegetables and olive oil. We added the other foods from this list strategically throughout his week. Within 3 months, Thomas reported feeling stronger than he had in 5 years. At 6 months, he had abandoned his walker except for long distances. His hemoglobin had normalized. His inflammatory markers had dropped by 41%. His physical therapist called his improvement exceptional. The practical implementation requires understanding preparation. Dried lentils should be rinsed and soaked for 6 to 8 hours to reduce compounds called lectins that can cause digestive upset in sensitive individuals. Cook until completely tender. Red and yellow lentils cook faster and are easier to digest than green or brown varieties. Consume as soup, mixed into salads, or as a side dish with vegetables and healthy fat. Here's your synergy tip for lentils. Always pair them with vitamin C-rich foods like tomatoes, bell peppers, or citrus. The vitamin C increases iron absorption from lentils by up to 300%. Iron is essential for oxygen transport to muscles, and many older adults are borderline anemic without knowing it, contributing to weakness and fatigue they attribute to normal aging. Let me speak to you directly for a moment. If you are over 60 or 70, you may sometimes feel that the window for meaningful muscle preservation has closed, that the weakness is inevitable, the trajectory is fixed, that sarcopenia is simply your genetic destiny. I want you to hear this clearly.